Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Better Product Solutions podcast, bringing you Peter Panneri, Business and Product Manager, Ryandra, Inc. History of cohesive tape. Peter goes over the history of cohesive tape all the way back to the 1980s, the value and differentiation of the Ryandra cohesive tape for medical tube set manufacturers, and then beyond that, even more added value beyond the tape. Peter goes over some neat things that are offered by the Ryandra brand. So, looking forward here for this podcast. Without further ado, bringing you Peter Panneri. Thank you. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Better Product Solutions podcast. We're bringing in another Tapeconian, although this Tapeconian works with our Ryandra brand. So this is a really great podcast that I'm excited for because we're going to introduce the Ryandra branded product line here at Tapecon. So welcoming Peter Panneri. Peter's formal title is Business and Product Manager for our Ryandra business unit. So welcome, Peter, podcast. We've had
Good
other
to be here.
kind of Tapeconians. I guess you're the first Ryandra-onian. We haven't really talked about what Ryandra is, but so Peter, you obviously I'm really excited to have you on to talk about the history, and then we'll also go into kind of some features of our cohesive tape line. So, Peter, if you want, if you could introduce yourself, well, for the softball, and then at your leisure, let's talk about, I guess, the cohesive tape. What is cohesive tape, and then kind of what is that solving in the marketplace?
Eh, well, anybody in the cohesive tape arena uh, knows some of the history, but for the audience that only eh, uses the tape presently, perhaps it is a good idea and informative to them. Where did it come from? There was a doctor. His name was George Winters. He was a English doctor doing research on what his profession was, and that was on medical wound care. And as he did his research, that was his dedication, he realized that while I have a product, I need to package it. And he invented the cohesive. And that was in the 1960s. That invention was based upon natural cohesive, the rubber tree plant, if you would. From from that from that start, it immediately went into uses in the sports arena. Everybody knows about a wrapping around using cohesive, and it's used in the sports arena. It it rapidly went into packaging. Packaging, for example, in furniture, packaging within envelopes, books, and it just spread. You'd be surprised that there's a spray that is used in the furniture industry for flame retardant, and it's cohesive based. So there's multiple applications of the cohesive, and is sometimes called cold seal. That's rather important because it says, hey, when you use this, you do not need heat. Therefore, there's another piece of equipment that is not required in the production process. So, given that, in the medical industry where it started, it didn't take long for the cohesive tape to come into a particular market that we deal in, and that's the medical tube set market, the people who manufacture the medical tube sets. Why do they use this piece of paper with this cohesive on it? It's uh, it's interesting. Uh, you have to understand how this manufacturing process takes place for tube sets. At one time, they tried to put the tube set together. You can envision a 4 feet a piece of plastic. They put ends on it, drip tube, a lure lock, and so forth. And as they moved them through the plant, they would drape them over a U-shaped type rack with wheels on it. And as you can imagine, the sometimes it would drop off and fall on the floor. When it falls on the floor, you can't use it anymore. It's a medical environment and so forth. They said, hey, you know what we should do? We should coil this little piece of tubing first, and it's easier to handle, and we can have an assembly line, an actual assembly line. So now, how can we secure that little coil of tubing? Let's try, which they did, a twist tie, and it worked. It was terrific, and except for one problem. Uh, all the tube sets are sterilized, and the twist tie punctured the sterilization bag, so that was out. And enter this piece of paper with the glue on it. That's how it originated. And the nicety of it is the final user, the doctor, the nurse, they simply tear the paper off. And again, the cohesive is only sticking to itself. It's not adhesive tape. Why not use adhesive? It sticks to the tubing. It leaves debris. This does not. It's ideal for the tube set manufacturer, and that's where we are right now. And that's one product that we offer to them.
I love that story. It's funny because that's how I always try to describe cohesive. It's like, well, adhesive sticks to stuff, anything. Cohesive only sticks to itself. And then I try to explain to people that, it's the competitive technology would be like a twist tie, right? So it's funny that you mentioned those things. And it's also, I love hearing the story too, because it's kind of like it's a problem to solve, and sometimes it's just a simple solution, and then I guess boom, a market is born, right? And it works. So
Yeah, a
I really
huge market.
appreciate that. And Peter, I know you didn't kind of talk about yourself personally, so I want to make sure you get an opportunity because clearly all the way back to who did I write down? George Winters and the inventor of cohesive. But you've obviously been involved in the cohesive industry for quite a while.
Yeah, my baptism in it was 1987. Uh, and and we'll get into it when we get into some of what we do here, what products we have. But that's when I started.
Got it. Well,
And
let's head right into that then. I mean, obviously we have a brand of cohesive tape, Ryandra, and maybe can you speak about what makes Ryandra cohesive tape different, superior to some of the other tapes out there, and maybe talk more about the
it's a good,
product itself.
that's a excellent question. There's a number of people that was supplied, including ourselves. So basically, it comes down, what do you have for sale? In this arena that we're selling to the medical device manufacturer, the key word is medical, and you have FDA. As I said, I started in 1987. That's when a product launched, and I'll get into that product later. But at that time, what's critical, it was all natural latex, the rubber tree plant. That was the base. FDA came out in the 90s and said, by the way, we were going to give you a couple years, but we need latex free now, this minute. And so the whole industry was tipped over upside down trying to develop latex free. And, and it came out. And we have a latex free product. Latex free is multiple bases of styrene, a neoprene, and so forth. Uh, the chemistry isn't important right now in our discussion. What is important is, again, what I said, what do you have for sale? In the medical arena, there's certain regulatory requirements, the REACH, ROHAS, the Prop 65, the chronic legislation. Yeah, we all subscribe to it. Anyone in it has to subscribe, or they're not going to be doing business. All right. But we go a little bit farther. We on our own have an independent lab testing our toxicity, testing bioburden. We also have a property that we call QuickTag. the purpose of this tape is to secure the tube set. And when you do that, in particular the manufacturing sites around the world, they take advantage of inexpensive labor. So you have people thumb and forefinger squeezing this together. This quick tack allows the minimum pressure. After all, they're working X number of hours a day. And that's something that we're rather proud of. And we continually try to uh, research that and as well a number of other things. When you, one of the items is shelf life. What is the shelf life of our tape? The industry standard is 6 months. We have 1 year. And we have that based on live data. In other words, we put in our development, we put our product in quote on the shelf and then test it a year later. And we continually test it to see how can we improve it, make it better. Those are some of the aspects of that we have in our production. And there's also the obvious is the absolute control and of the production process so that we can trace it, yes, like everybody needs to do, back to the raw materials. However, in ours, we pay particular attention to the efficiencies and the scrap. Why? Because this product, while it's important and it's necessary for the final manufacturing site, it is a commodity. Therefore, it's price sensitive. So we have a product that is offered to the market that is sensitive to the price and it has a shelf life longer than anyone else.
Well, I certainly appreciate the particularly the quick tech. I've had the opportunity on the last, well, to visit some of the sites that the assembly process of where our Ryandra cohesive tape is shipped to, and I've seen the assembly process. And yeah, speed. It's about speed. I mean, these tubing sets are coming down the line, and it's about getting these things bundled and getting the productivity in that work cell meeting the expectations of our end user customer. So quick tech, the word quick in that and how you describe quick tech, I know is valued by our customer base because they're moving quick, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. And I appreciate the story of the whole latex to latex free. I wasn't aware of, I guess, how quickly that pivot needed to happen and how the industry responded. So thanks for that. So, I mean, obviously beyond selling tape, there's the cohesive tape, but is there anything else you want to add in terms of what Ryandra stands for in terms of serving its customers
Yes.
beyond just I'll say the commodity role of tape itself, although it itself does have unique features as you described. But what else, what other ways does Ryandra support its customers?
As I mentioned, I started the baptism into this industry 87. And it wasn't because we had this desire to sell rolls of cohesive tape. It was because someone came to us at the time and said, "Hey, I got this tubing thing. You got to understand that we're in design, a bunch of design engineers. And so this is the first time we're being exposed to a medical tube set. You saw them in the hospital, but we're exposed to it. And he says, I want a machine that I can put this tube set into this machine and it's going to wrap it with this piece of paper. And by the way, the machine has to feed the paper out and cut it. And I said, what's the paper? And he says, it's a cohesive tape. And say, all right, what the hell's a cohesive tape? And so forth. The usual questions that a design engineer would ask. I'm laughing because I look back at it and it's it's an interesting story. But the bottom line is we developed this, and it's important to note. I mean, not only do we develop it, as we're developing, it became obvious, hey, why not have the consumable with it? And and you can see the birth of a company and profit margins and so forth and so on. But what is important, that particular company is still a customer of ours today
Hmm.
from 1987.
Well,
And what we had come up with is, we'll call it a tape dispenser, and that's what the market calls it today. We were the first to introduce that to the medical device manufacturer. Basically, what it says to the marketplace is we have a significant amount of experience and scar tissue, if you would, in understanding the manufacturing requirements of someone that produces a tube set, all the way down to automatic coiling. Anything involved in applying that tape, we are aware of. So we design our tape, we design our machines to facilitate and to accelerate that manufacturing process. Again, at a price tag that's acceptable to the marketplace. So we have a line of dispenser uh, product lines. We are recently reviewing and have completed that review, and for the purpose of taking the cost out of ours. It was old, the old design. We had to take the cost and come into the market price cost. We've done that, and we've done that with a commitment that our customers are never down. I'm sure in another video, uh, a podcast, we can discuss the sponsor at length.
mhm.
Again, and because of our experience, we we offer. Uh, I'll open my kimono a little bit as an introduction to the next podcast.
Yeah.
We offer fixtures. And what the heck does that mean? That means a tool set so that that operator can work quicker and efficiently in a time setting, actual time setting. So, having said that, I hope it perks your curiosity to tune into the next podcast.
Yeah, well, there you go. Thanks for the plug, Peter. And the other thing is like, well, you used the word quick and then you used quicker. And obviously the theme that I'm hearing you talk about is quick tack and quick dispense and quick. It's all about the theme here is offering the end user customer an opportunity to quickly get this solution in place so they can get their productivity to the levels that it needs to
Yes,
get this stuff out
uh,
the door.
yeah, Steve. The reason is, go to the hospital, you got a tube set, an intravenous set. How many are there? In other words, the production rate and the volume that they're pumping out is in the millions. So therefore, you need the speed, you need the efficiency, and you need the price, because every manufacturing site, you know, they have a bottom line that they have to maintain.
Yep.
And so we're all cognizant of all those requirements, especially with a roll of tape that is absolutely required. The plant will shut down if it doesn't have it,
Right.
but it's a commodity.
Yep.
Therefore, your price is crucial.
Well, I appreciate the nod to future podcasts on tape dispenser technology, but also just maybe in the future, we can also talk about other areas that cohesive is used. You obviously talked about, the early stage uses of cohesive, but there's other medical applications in which cohesive, of course, is used in, and maybe that's for another day. But
Yeah,
you
if
know,
I can touch on that, I
sure.
mentioned wound care, and that's the big one. And certainly we code our product, and we certainly have capabilities in that. So that's for another time.
Yep, got it. Well, Peter, I told you time would fly. I mean, we're already approaching, that 19, 20-minute mark, according to my timer anyway.
Well,
So, any final parting words that you want to share, or anything that you feel like something I should have asked, I didn't ask, or anything that you want to add before we kind of wrap it up?
uh, no, I think you covered with your questioning. You covered the essentials of where did it come from? How is it used today relative to what our product line, and how can it be used tomorrow
Yep.
continuously? So it says that we'll talk again.
Okay, good. Well, I'm happy that Ryandra Podcast 1 is in the books. And of course, we've got a website refresh coming up, and we're doing some work on some refreshed marketing collateral. So this is all kind of another asset to tell the Ryandra story. So appreciate your time, Peter, and thanks
My
for being
pleasure.
on the podcast. Thanks.